Hi there, interghost here, and today I'm doing the 90s tag. So yeah, thanks very much to Shockz16 for tagging me on the 90s tag. This is a video which has been going around the community the last few weeks. Basically, it's 7 questions all about the 90s, and you just have to answer the questions, and then after you've done that you tag somebody else and hopefully they'll do a video response. So I've got my 7 questions right here. First one, favourite cartoon from the 90s. Now this is quite hard because, as you know, I'm an 80s kid. Check out the videos at the end of this video. So most of my favourite cartoons were from the 80s. 90s I was sort of getting out of cartoons and watching more like TV shows like Red Dwarf and Blackadder and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the one I'm going to choose, which is only just comes in the 90s, is The Simpsons, and this was, I think it was first released in America in 1989, but the first episode to be broadcast in the UK on Sky 1 I think it was in 1990, in September 1990 to be precise, and I can remember it first coming onto the TV, and it was a cartoon like we'd never seen before. It was sort of like adultish sitcom cartoon rather than just sort of slapstick silly cartoon series, and it was something which we'd never seen before, and it just took the world by storm really. And you can just see how good The Simpsons is by the fact that it's still going today in 2020. And yeah, I can remember as a family we used to sit down every Sunday to watch the new episode of The Simpsons, and that went on for years, and yeah, it was just a huge phenomenon at the time. So the next one's quite easy for me. A lot of people are getting finding this one quite hard, but it's basically just Sega or Nintendo. Now you probably know Nintendo all the way for me. Never been a huge Sega fan. I do like Sega consoles, and you know, I've played them in the past. I own some now. A lot of my friends used to have Sega, and there are a lot of games which I like on there. But for me, Nintendo wins hands down. If you just have to look at their library of games, their success, the fact that they're still going now and still competing against these huge companies like Microsoft and Sony, just shows a testament of how good they really are. And I still believe today that Nintendo are probably one of the only companies which actually put 100% effort into their games and ensure that they're ready to be released before they release them, and they don't require like a half-day update before you can even play the game. So yeah, I know that they rinse and repeat a lot of their stuff, but they always push the boundaries. Just have a look at their consoles. They're always inventing something new. When they invent it, Sony and Microsoft always slate it, saying how it's for kids and gimmicky, and then a few years down the line they will implement the same technology into their new system or games. So yeah, I believe Nintendo are and have always been at the forefront of gaming, and they really know how gamers like to play games, and I hope they continue for a long time to come. I think it'd be a sad day when they leave the market, because as much as I like the PlayStation, nowadays PlayStation and Xbox are just basically computers with controllers, so there's no sort of real difference between a console and a PC. But if you play a Nintendo console, it feels like you're still playing on a console. So number 3 is favourite 90s video game. Now, like Shock said, this one is probably impossible to choose. There were so many games in the 90s that I can think of. Most of them probably on the PlayStation 1, to be fair. You know, you got Final Fantasy 7, you got the Resident Evils. Yeah, there's just tons of them. Metal Gear Solid. But the one which really sticks out to me, and I probably have the best memories of, is the original Tomb Raider. Now again, when this first came out in, I've got it written down here, October 1996, I actually got it on release. I can remember getting it, and it had been hyped up, it'd been pushed, there was loads of commercials out about it, and adverts on the TV, and yeah, it's just one of those games where the first time you play it, you were just stunned. I know playing it now, it seems a bit old school and blocky, tank controls, but that was sort of what was happening back then with the controls and the way it worked. But just having that full 3D environment where you could move the camera around wherever you want, you could find secrets, and it just had a really nice feel to it. The music was spot on, the graphics were good. I said that you go back to it now, it looks dated, but again, you can tell how good a game it is you can go back to that game and you can play it today and it still feels like a good game, even though the graphics aren't that great, because sort of early PlayStation games and Nintendo 64 games, that sort of era, the old school 3D polygon graphics have not aged very well at all. But I think Tomb Raider, the original, is probably one of the ones which still stands up. So yeah, if you've never played it, I think most people have, go and play it. It's a very good game. It's not too long, there's loads of secrets to find, and yeah, it's just one of those iconic games which really stand out from the 90s. I would have been 16 when that came out, so peak Lara Croft time. And yeah, again, it hit the world by storm, made loads of sequels, and I think they lost their way a bit with the sequels, but they brought it back with the new Tomb Raiders, which are really cool. And I think without Tomb Raider, they would have never created my favourite game series of all time, and that's Uncharted, which is pretty much Tomb Raider, a male character rather than a female. Next one is quite hard. This one is favourite comic from the 90s. Again, I was a bit too old around the 90s to be buying comics. It's not like in America where people are huge comic book fans. We didn't really buy comics. I know people are saying Beano Dandy. Again, I didn't really get the Beano Dandy that often. I know they were around, we had a few. We might have had the annuals at Christmas, but yeah, we didn't really buy comics. Now, the only comic I could think of which I really religiously bought every week, I think it was a weekly one, was the Oink comic, and I've done a video on that if you want to go and check that out. I'm not going to pull them down now, they're all in the loft. But that was the only sort of series of comics I collected, and that was, they finished in 1988, so just outside the 90s gap. Now, the only comics which I did buy in the 90s, my brother got into Marvel comics around the 90s, and he was a huge sort of Spider-Man fan. We went to our local newsagents and managed to order comics from America, but when they ordered it, they wouldn't order just one series of comics, so they wouldn't just order Spider-Man, they had to order like several Marvel comics in a block. So they would order them in, and my brother would get the Spider-Man one pulled out and they would write on the cover his name, which is something they used to do, and then the rest of them they would just put on the shelf for people to buy. So each, was it weekly or monthly, I can't remember, we used to go in there, my brother would pick up the Spider-Man one, then we'd look through the other Marvel comics on the shelf, and if there's anything that stood out, we'd buy it. And I got into sort of buying every so often the Hulk, and there's a couple of them here. I've got a few more. I didn't have that many, I probably had about 10, 15 maybe. And more recently I've picked up a couple more of these Incredible Hulk comics, and yeah, it's probably the only superhero I was really into back then in the 90s, so my answer is Incredible Hulk. Now, this next one is favourite 90s wrestler. Now, I was aware of the wrestling back in the 90s with WWF and, you know, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Bret the Hitman Hart, you know, all those big 90s wrestling stars which were going around. I remember playing wrestling in my front room with my brother and his friends and my friends. We used to jump off the sofas and clothesline each other and that sort of stuff. Or in the garden, we'd lay some mattresses out and make a ring. But I wasn't a massive fan of wrestling. I didn't watch it very often. It was on Sky, and we did have Sky. And like Shockz said, we used to stay up to early hours to watch Royal Rumble and what was the other one? WrestleMania, that sort of thing. And yeah, it was just one of those things people used to talk about at school, but I wasn't a really big fan. But probably my favourite wrestler when I did watch it was probably the same answer that Shockz gave, and that is The Undertaker. I just used to like him. I used to find him really funny. I used to think it's funny the way he walked into the ring, that he was a dead man, and his what's his name, his coach, is it Paul Bearer, used to come on with like an urn and like cuddling this urn. I used to think that was hilarious, and used to put people into coffins. I remember, was it him or he put somebody in the coffin in one match? I think it might have been him. They brought the coffin out and he smashed through the coffin and got out, and then carried on wrestling. And people would still argue at school that wrestling was real. So yeah, so probably The Undertaker. But like I said, I wasn't a huge wrestling fan. Number 6, we got favourite 90s song or music video. Again, a very hard one to pick one from, really. I wasn't a huge music video fan. I know a lot of people used to watch MTV or The Box or the VH1, was that around in the 90s? And yeah, used to watch a lot of the videos. Around that sort of time, I was probably watching a lot of sort of Britpoppy stuff like Spice Girls and Atomic Kitten and things like that, which were probably being played over and over again on The Box. But the one video I could think of which really stood out again from the 90s, and I've written down the date, is in 1991 actually, and that was Michael Jackson, Black or White. And the reason that one stood out to me is because I remember they were like hyping it up. They hyped up a music video, which is really strange back then, and they premiered it on, I can't remember what channel they did it on now. It might have been on Sky One again, but I remember they were like advertising that this video was going to come on, which, so everyone sort of sat down ready to watch this video, and it came on, and it was like 11 minutes long or just over, and which is a long time for a music video. It was like a short movie. It had Macaulay Culkin in it, which you know, at that time everyone was huge fans of his when he's in his Home Alone stardom. And he comes on at the start, and his mum and dad are telling him to be quiet, and he brings the guitar downstairs, I think, and then he strums it and fires his dad through the wall, and then he goes flying, lands in the desert, and that's when the music video starts. And then you got Michael Jackson dancing around through all these different countries. It's the first time they probably used morphing, where, you know, the face will change into something else. And yeah, I remember watching that video and thinking, this is going on for a long time, but it just went on and on and on, and then it finished, and you thought, wow, that was basically a short movie. And yeah, I don't remember how many times we re-watched that video back in the 90s, and everyone was talking about it at school. I think it was even on the news. But I don't think there's a full video clip on YouTube. I tried to look for it earlier, and it always cuts either the beginning or the end off. But yeah, Michael Jackson's Black or White was a huge deal in the 90s. Now finally, we got favourite 90s live action TV show. Now again, I was getting a little bit old for watching live action TV shows. I'm guessing they're talking about things like on Nickelodeon, or you know, things like Saved by the Bell or Kenan and Kel, Sister Sister, all stuff, Sabrina, Teenage Witch. I'm guessing you're thinking about all those sort of things. But I never watched any of those programs. I didn't find them funny. I'd rather watch cartoons even at that age than watch the live action shows. I just didn't really get into it. But Shockz mentioned Gladiators, so if we're going down that sort of line, obviously Gladiators was a huge thing. I used to watch that every Saturday night, I think it was. That actually started in 1992, and yeah, watched that for years and years. That was a huge thing. Again, that's another thing we used to play with our friends. One person was the gladiator and one person was the contestant, and you used to get like pillows and do the joust and that sort of stuff. The other one I could think of, which was huge at the time, was Crystal Maze, and that started in 1990. Went on for quite a few years with Richard O'Brien and then Ed Tudor-Pole. And you know, they used to go into, basically it's the start of the escape room phase, where a team would go into a location. They'd have to do a puzzle to get a crystal, and at the end they'd have to collect tokens to win a prize. So sort of those were game shows. I'm not sure if that was the live action thing. Now, one DVD set which I have got here was something which I used to enjoy a lot back in the 90s. This started in 1991, so it hopefully counts, and that is Erie, Indiana. Now, I'm not sure how many people saw this, but it was a great TV show on at the time. I think there's only 19 episodes, and it was just really funny. It's about this kid who moves into Erie in Indiana, and loads of weird things happen. I'm trying to get the glare off of this. Yeah, it's sort of like a Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, sort of light-hearted TV show. For example, one of the episodes is there's a Tupperware woman who sells boxes of Tupperware, but they make them human size, so you can put humans inside it and seal them up, and it makes their life longer. I think there's one with a mummy in it, or a zombie. At the beginning they got Elvis cutting the grass, and it's just about all these weird things happening in this little town, and he's sort of trying to investigate it with his best mate to try and find out why it's all happening. So if you've never seen Erie, Indiana, check it out. Like I said, there's only 19 episodes, so it's quite a short series. They never made another one, and yeah, pick up the DVD if you enjoy it. So there we go, that's the 90s tag. I tag these two people, and if you want to make a video, you can do. The more the merrier. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, thumb it up. If you didn't, thumb it down. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Even answer the questions in the comments below if you feel like it. Thanks again, Shockz, for tagging me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.